Hello, 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 and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I would like to say God bless you and thank you for tuning in. Today's word I would like to entitle Let Nothing Be Wasted. These words come from John 6:12, and this is when Jesus fed the 5,000. And the presentation of Jesus, the mannerism and the way he conduct and deliver his message at this moment is so divine. What Jesus really wanted to teach the disciples was how his word spoken over something is perpetual, it's continuous, it's alive, it continues to provide. When you think everything is wasted, his word is still functioning over your life. That's exactly why he said, gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted. He's not just talking about gathering everything together. You apply this to your life right now. How does it feel just to think of that? So gather the pieces to that business you want to start. Gather the pieces to the artwork you want to create. Gather the pieces to the music you want to make. Gather the pieces to all of the broken things in your life, the lost ideas that never materialized because the pieces were broken. Jesus knew how to provide where it seemed to be impossible. When he asked his disciples what he should do to feed the people, he asked his disciple only to test him. He knew exactly what he was going to do. Philip answered him, it would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite. So Philip thought he needed money for a miracle to happen, because there's no way, even with the money, would you have had time enough to go get all of that food to feed everybody. And the fact that there was someone who prepared a lunch for the young child that was with them, that says a lot there, because there's a lot in your preparation for what God has planned for you. There's a lot in your thoughtfulness. There's a lot in you being kind and going that extra mile to make sure that you take care of the people you love, whether you're feeding them or a simple smile, giving them encouraging words. This message is the essence and the embodiment of heaven on earth, how we should walk in dominion. That no matter what you think is not enough, with God's hand on it, he can multiply it. He can make it more than enough. Your simple act of kindness can be one miracle, but he can touch it and create a miracle for the multitudes. Now, us knowing that Jesus himself is the bread, this is a major key, because what happens next is quite intriguing. I'm not going to read the entire story to you. I'm just going to give you a breakdown of the message. So after the multitude was fed, you were talking about 5,000 people. There were 12 disciples, and each disciple was to collect a basket of everything that was left over. So let nothing be wasted is the message. Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted. The moments you think there's nothing left, there's an abundance that you need to remember. So after this, Yeshua says, gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted. So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves left over by those who had eaten. After the people saw the sign Jesus performed, they began to say, surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world. Jesus, knowing that they intended to come and make him king by force, withdrew again to a mountain by himself. Jesus dipped on them. After having the biggest fish fry you ever seen, he dipped on them. It's okay to leave and not be surrounded by a lot of people. It's all right to go have your quiet time with God. It's actually a requirement. Religion is not the same thing as a relationship. And the relationship that's displayed between how we watch the life of Jesus is to show us how we are to interact with God and have a real relationship with him. Remember, nothing is wasted. He left, and what happens next is unbelievable. When evening came, his disciples went down to the lake, where they got into a boat and set off across the lake for Capernaum. By now it was dark, and Jesus had not yet joined them. A strong wind was blowing, and the waters grew rough. When they had rowed about 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus approaching the boat, walking on water, and they were frightened. Now it is pitch black. There are no street lights reflecting off the water if you live in a city that's by the water. No, there are no street lights there. When they say it's dark and the water is rough, they can barely see in front of them. So they have raging tides on top of wind, and they see Jesus walking on water. Right in the middle of all of this confusion, never let your circumstances determine what you're capable of achieving, what's impossible and what's possible. All 12 disciples was with Jesus all day before he went into the mountains. Now they saw this man pull out 2 fish and 5 loaves and fed an entire multitude of people. And at this very moment, those baskets of leftovers are in the boat as a souvenir to remind them of the previous miracle, who he is, sitting right there in the boat with them, not to mention he's walking on water right now. It's a normal response to be afraid. It is a normal response in your genetic code to understand what fear is. Just remember, God did not give you a spirit of fear. You're not a fearful spirit. You're a fearsome spirit. You are to be feared. There is nothing the adversary could do that could stop God's plan for your life. Just remember that. He just wanted to show them a different dynamic of understanding. What goes up must come down. Well, you couldn't tell that to the Wright brothers or NASA or SpaceX. They understood that it was a different dynamic that was required to achieve the desired results. That was beyond what was thought of or had been witnessed at that time. So when you know the dynamic of relationship, when you know the power of God, you have nothing to fear. So Jesus says to them, "It is I, don't be afraid." Then they were willing to take him in the boat, and immediately the boat reached the shore where they were heading. Okay, now in the beginning of their travel, they were very detailed to say that they rowed for 3 or 4 miles. They rowed. This didn't say that they rowed and they got there later, or this seems like they teleported. If you don't want to say it, I'm just going to throw it in the air right now. So, speaking from a different dynamic, this is the introduction of Kairos time. Not Chronos time, what we live by, linear, thinking day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute. Kairos time is a divine time. It's actually timelessness. So God being sovereign, his presence alone, being outside of time, can alter time itself as we understand it. So now, looking at how the disciples perceive it, this is what's going on now. It's pitch black out there. They see Jesus. They invite him onto the boat. And who else is out there to witness what happened? But immediately, they were on the shore of where they were going. Okay. I say that only to ask you this. They didn't say that they went through the rough waters and rowed for 5 more miles and then they were to their destination. They were immediately at their destination as soon as Jesus got into the boat. What situation is it that you have that Jesus is waiting for you to invite him into the boat? Yes, things look crazy. It was rocky waters and definitely windy, but just invite him into your life and watch how a relationship developing with him can restore your life with the dynamics required between you and God to manifest heaven on earth.